From Zero to Fluent English. Hi, I am Mark. This is my English story. I did not know any English. When people spoke English, I could not understand. The words sounded strange. I felt lost and confused, but now I speak well. I can talk with friends, read books, and write sentences. It was not easy, but I did it. Let me take you back to the beginning. I remember the first time I heard English. It was on TV. The characters were speaking a language I didn't understand. They laughed, talked, and seemed happy, but I couldn't join in. I wanted to understand. I wanted to be part of their world. At school, English was a subject. The teacher wrote words on the board. She said them out loud, but to me they were just sounds. I couldn't make sense of them. My classmates seemed to get it. They nodded, repeated the words, and even made sentences. But I sat quietly, hoping the teacher wouldn't call on me. I was afraid to speak. What if I said it wrong? What if they laughed at me? I did not know any English. Now I speak well. One day, I decided I wanted to change. I wanted to learn English. I wanted to understand those TV shows, talk with my friends, and do well in school. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to try. First, I talked to my parents. I told them I wanted to learn English. They were supportive. They said learning a new language was a good idea. They encouraged me to start small and not give up. That gave me hope. I started with the basics. The alphabet was my first step. I practiced each letter. I wrote them down one by one. At first, my letters were shaky. Some were too big, others too small, but I kept practicing. Soon, my letters looked just right. I was proud of my progress. Next, I learned simple words: cats, dog, apple. These were words I saw every day. I made flashcards with pictures and words. I looked at them often. I said the words out loud. Slowly, the words started to make sense. I could see a cat and say cat. I could hold an apple and say apple. It felt good to know these words. Practicing every day was important. I set aside time each day to study. Sometimes I was tired, sometimes I wanted to play instead, but I remembered my goal. I wanted to learn English, so I practiced every day. I learned a little more. I started to make sentences. I am Alex. This is a book. These were simple sentences, but they meant a lot to me. They were my first steps in speaking English. I practiced with my friends. They were kind and patient. They corrected me when I made mistakes. They cheered me on when I got it right. Their support made a big difference. Speaking out loud was scary at first. I was afraid of making mistakes, but I learned that mistakes were okay. They were part of learning. Each mistake taught me something new. Over time, I became less shy. I spoke more and more. I felt my confidence growing. Reading and listening were also important. I started with children's books. They were simple and had pictures. I could look at the pictures and understand the story. I read the words out loud. I repeated them until they sounded right. I listened to English songs. Music made learning fun. I sang along even if I didn't understand all the words. Slowly, the songs made more sense. I watched English cartoons. The characters spoke clearly. I could follow their stories. Watching cartoons helped me learn new words and phrases. Writing was another step. I started with simple sentences. I like cats. Today is sunny. I wrote in a journal every day. My sentences were short, but they helped me practice. I paid attention to spelling. I wanted to write the words correctly. Spelling was tricky at first. Some words were hard to check. I wrote my words each day. My writing improved. I took small steps. I didn't try to learn everything at once. I focused on one thing at a time. This made learning easier. Each small step added up. Over time, I saw big improvements. I joined an English club. We met every week. We talked about different topics. We played games in English. The club was fun and helped me practice speaking. I made new friends who were also learning English. We helped each other. We shared tips and encouraged one another. I found language partners online. We talked through video calls. They wanted to learn my language, and I wanted to learn English. We helped each other. It was like having a friend to study with me. We practiced speaking and listening. We corrected each other's mistakes. This helped me a lot. I asked for help when I didn't understand. I asked my teacher, my friends, and my parents. They were always willing to help. They explained things to me. They gave me tips and resources. Asking for help was important. It showed me that I didn't have to learn alone. Learning English changed my life. It opened new doors. I could talk with more people. I could understand more things. I felt more confident. I was proud of my progress. Now I want to help others. I wanted to share my story. I hope it will inspire you. If you are learning English, know that you can do it. Start. Practice every day. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Ask for help when you need it. Keep going even when it's hard. You can do it too. Start small and keep going. Thank you for listening to my story. Good luck with your English. Chapter 1: The Beginning. At first, English was hard. I did not understand words. They seemed like a puzzle with no solution. When I heard people speaking English, it felt like they were talking in a secret code. I tried to listen carefully, but the sounds were strange. They did not make sense to me. I felt frustrated. In school, English class was the most difficult for me. The teacher would speak in English, and I could only catch a few words. She would ask questions, and I didn't know the answers. I felt embarrassed. I wanted to hide or disappear. My classmates seemed to understand everything. They could read, write, and speak in English, but I struggled with every word. When we had to read out loud, I was scared. My heart would race, and my hands would shake. I worried about making mistakes. I worried that others would laugh at me. Sometimes, I pretended to be sick so I wouldn't have to go to English class. But deep down, I knew I couldn't run away forever. I had to face my fear. One day, I decided to start with the basics. I realized that I needed to build a strong foundation, so I began with the alphabet, A, B, C. I took a piece of paper and wrote down each letter. I practiced writing them again and again. At first, my letters were uneven. Some were too big, others too small, but I kept practicing. Slowly, my letters became neater. I felt a sense of accomplishment. Learning the alphabet was like opening a door. Each letter was a key. Together, they formed the building blocks of words. I found joy in this simple practice. It was fun to see how letters combined to create new sounds and meanings. I used flashcards to help me remember the letters. I made my own flashcards with colorful markers. On one side, I wrote the letter. On the other side, I drew a picture of something that started with that letter. A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. I looked at these flashcards every day. I said the letters out loud. I traced them with my finger. The more I practiced, the more familiar they became. I also watched educational videos for kids. They were designed to teach the alphabet in a fun way. There were songs, dances, and animations. I sang along with the songs. I followed the dances. These videos made learning enjoyable. They helped me remember the letters in a playful manner. Learning English made me feel many emotions. At first, I felt nervous every time I tried to learn a new word. I worried about getting it wrong. I was afraid of making mistakes. I was afraid of being laughed at. But I knew that if I let fear stop me, I would never learn. So I tried to be brave. I felt a sense of excitement when I made progress. Each time I learned a new letter or word, I felt proud. These small victories gave me confidence. They showed me that I could do it. They motivated me to keep going. There were times when I felt overwhelmed. English has many rules and exceptions. Sometimes it seemed like for every rule I learned, there was an exception that confused me. I felt like I was taking one step forward and two steps back. But I reminded myself that learning is a journey. It takes time and effort. I had to be patient with myself. Support from my family and friends made a big difference. My parents encouraged me every day. They told me that it was okay to make mistakes. They told me that every mistake was a step towards learning. Their words gave me strength. My friends helped me practice. They were patient and kind. They corrected me gently. They cheered me on. Their support made me feel less alone. I also learned to celebrate my progress. Every small step was a victory. I celebrated when I learned a new letter. I celebrated when I wrote a word correctly. I celebrated when I spoke a sentence without hesitation. These celebrations reminded me of how far I had come. I did not give up, no matter how hard it was. I kept going. I reminded myself of my goal. I wanted to learn English. I wanted to understand and be understood. I wanted to connect with others. This goal kept me focused. It gave me the determination to keep trying. Looking back, I see how important these early steps were. These were the foundation of my learning journey. They taught me patience, perseverance, and the value of small victories. They showed me that learning is not a straight path. There are ups and downs, but with determination and support, anything is possible. Now, when I speak English, I remember those early days. I remember the challenges and the small victories. They are a part of my story. They remind me of where I started and how far I have come. They give me the confidence to keep learning and growing. If you are starting to learn English, remember that it's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to make mistakes. Every step, no matter how small, is progress. Celebrate your victories. Ask for help when you need it. Keep going, even when it's hard. You can do it, just like I did. Chapter 2: Building Vocabulary. Learning simple words was my next big step. After mastering the alphabet, I was ready to build my vocabulary. I started with the words that I encountered every day. These words were familiar and easy to remember. They formed the foundation of my English learning journey. The first words I learned were simple and common: cat, dog, apple. These words were all around me. I saw cats and dogs in my neighborhood. I ate apples as a snack. Connecting the words to real objects helped me remember them. I could look at a cat and say cat. I could see a dog and say dog. I could hold an apple and say apple. These simple words gave me confidence. They were like stepping stones. Each word I learned was a step forward. It felt good to know these words. They were the building blocks of sentences. With each new word, my understanding of English grew. Learning these words also made my everyday life easier. I could use them in conversations. When I saw a cat, I could tell my friends, "Look, a cat." When I wanted an apple, I could ask, "Can I have an apple?" These small achievements were exciting. They showed me that I was making progress. Flashcards were one of my favorite tools for learning new words. They were simple but very effective. I made my own flashcards at home. I used colorful markers and index cards. On one side of the card, I wrote the English word. On the other side, I drew a picture of the object. For example, for the word cat, I drew a picture of a cat. Making the flashcards was fun. It was a creative activity that helped me remember the words better. The process of writing the word and drawing the picture reinforced my learning. Each time I used the flashcards, I felt more confident. I used my flashcards every day. I carried them with me wherever I went. During breaks at school, I would pull out a few cards and go through them. At home, I would review them before bed. Repetition was key. The more I looked at the flashcards, the more the words stuck in my mind. I also played games with flashcards. Sometimes I would shuffle them and try to guess the word just by looking at the picture. Other times, I would challenge myself to write sentences using the words on the flashcards. These games made learning fun and kept me engaged. My friends joined in. We would quiz each other using the flashcards. They helped me pronounce the words correctly and use them in sentences. Their support and encouragement made a big difference. Learning together was motivating and enjoyable. Practice was essential in my journey to build vocabulary. Every day, I dedicated time to practicing English. Consistency was important. I knew that to remember the words, I had to use them regularly. Practice turned the new words into part of my everyday language. I started by speaking the words out loud. I would look at an object and say its name in English. If I saw a cat, I would say cat. If I saw a dog, I would say dog. This simple exercise helped me associate the words with the objects. It made the words feel more real and meaningful. Writing was another way I practiced. I kept a journal where I wrote simple sentences using the new words. The cat is sleeping, I have an apple, the dog is barking. Writing these sentences helped me understand how to use the words in context. It also improved my spelling and grammar. Listening was also a big part of my practice routine. I listened to English songs and watched English cartoons. These activities made learning fun. I sang along to the songs even if I didn't understand all the words. Over time, I started recognizing the words I had learned. Watching cartoons was helpful too. The characters spoke clearly, and the stories were easy to follow. I could hear the words in action and understand how they were used in conversations. Repetition was key to remembering the new words. I repeated them every day. I used them in different contexts. I spoke them, wrote them, and listened to them. Each repetition made the words more familiar. They became part of my active vocabulary. I also set small goals for myself. Each week, I aimed to learn a certain number of new words. I wrote them down and checked them off as I learned them. These goals kept me focused and motivated. Seeing my progress on paper was satisfying. It showed me that I was moving forward. Challenges were part of the process too. Some words were harder to remember than others. When I struggled with a word, I didn't give up. I found new ways to practice. I used it in more sentences, I drew pictures of it, and I asked my friends for help. Persistence paid off. Eventually, the word would stick. I also used technology to aid my learning. There were many apps and websites designed for interactive exercises and games. They helped me practice vocabulary in a fun and engaging way. I could learn at my own pace and track my progress. One of my favorite apps was a language learning app that used spaced repetition. It reminded me to review words at specific intervals. This method ensured that I didn't forget the words I had learned. The app also had quizzes and challenges that tested my knowledge. It made learning feel like a game. My family supported my practice efforts too. My parents encouraged me to speak English at home. They asked me to name objects around the house. They listened to me read my journal entries. Their encouragement and interest made me feel proud of my efforts. Building vocabulary was a gradual process. It took time and effort, but with each new word I learned, I felt more confident. My vocabulary grew, and so did my ability to communicate in English. The simple words I started with were just the beginning. They laid the foundation for more complex learning. Looking back, I realized how important those early words were. They were the first steps on my journey to mastering English. They gave me the confidence to keep going. They showed me that learning a new language is possible, one word at a time. If you are learning English, start with simple words. Use flashcards to help you remember them. Practice every day. Speak, write, and listen. Repetition is key. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Each mistake is a learning opportunity. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Keep going, and you will see improvement. You can do it, just like I did. Chapter 3: Basic Sentences. After building my vocabulary with simple words, I was ready to start constructing sentences. This was an exciting step. It felt like I was putting the pieces of a puzzle together. Each word I learned was a piece, and now I could start forming complete thoughts. I began with the simplest sentences. I am Alex. This is a book. These sentences were straightforward and easy to understand. They were short but powerful. For the first time, I could express myself in English. It was a thrilling feeling to construct sentences. I needed to understand basic grammar. I learned about subjects and predicates. I learned that every sentence needs a subject, the person or thing doing the action, and a predicate, the action or description. Speaking practice was a crucial part of my learning journey. Constructing sentences on paper was one thing, but speaking them out loud was another challenge. I needed to practice speaking to improve my pronunciation and fluency. I started by speaking to myself in my room. I would say the sentences I had written. I am Alex. This is a book. Hearing the words out loud helped me become more familiar with their sounds. It also helped me practice my pronunciation. At first, I felt silly talking to myself, but I soon realized it was a valuable exercise. Next, I practiced speaking with my friends. They were very supportive. They understood that I was learning and were patient with me. We would have simple conversations in English. They asked me questions, and I tried to answer in complete sentences. How are you? I am fine. What is this? This is a pen. These conversations were short but helpful. They gave me the confidence to speak more. My friends also corrected my mistakes. If I said something wrong, they would gently correct me. I also joined a language exchange group. This group was made up of people who wanted to practice different languages. Some were learning English, while others were learning my native language. We took turns speaking in each language. This gave me the opportunity to practice English with new people. It was a bit intimidating at first, but everyone was friendly and supportive. In the language exchange group, we played speaking games. One game was to describe a picture in English. I would look at a picture and try to describe what I saw. There is a cat on the table. The boy is playing with a ball. This game helped me practice using different words and constructing sentences on the spot. Another game was role-playing. We pretended to be in different situations, like ordering food at a restaurant or asking for directions. I would like a sandwich, please. Where is the nearest bus stop? These role-playing exercises were practical and fun. They helped me practice speaking in real-life situations. Overcoming shyness was one of the biggest challenges I faced in learning to speak English. At first, I was very shy. I was afraid of making mistakes. I was afraid that people would laugh at me or think I was not smart. This fear made it hard for me to speak up. But I knew that if I wanted to improve, I had to overcome my shyness. I had to be brave and take risks. I had to be willing to make mistakes and learn from them. One thing that helped me was positive self-talk. Whenever I felt nervous about speaking, I would tell myself, it's okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. That's how we learn. This positive self-talk gave me the courage to speak up. My friends and family also played a big role in helping me overcome shyness. They were very supportive and encouraging. They never laughed at my mistakes. Instead, they praised my efforts and progress. Their encouragement made me feel more confident. I also set small, achievable goals for myself. Instead of trying to speak perfectly right away, I focused on small steps. My first goal was to answer a simple question in English. How are you? I am fine. Once I achieved that, I set a new goal to have a short conversation in English. What is your name? My name is Alex. Where are you from? I am from Brazil. These small goals helped me build confidence gradually. As I practiced more, I noticed that my shyness started to fade. I became more comfortable speaking in English. I realized that most people were kind and patient. They wanted to help me succeed. This realization made it easier for me to speak up. I also learned to laugh at my mistakes. When I said something wrong, I would laugh and correct myself. Oops, I meant to say she is my friend, not she is a friend of me. Laughing at my mistakes made the learning process more enjoyable. It also showed others that I was not afraid to try and fail.